Well, all my work sort of relates to political power. I'm interested in how it really works. With the book I just finished, The Passage to Power, is about how Lyndon Johnson takes over the presidency after John F. Kennedy is assassinated. To watch him grasp the reins of power, because he knows how to use power, is to see what presidential power can be, can see the full potentialities of it. I always loved finding out. It's one reason I turned from doing journalism to books, because in journalism you always have a deadline. Either it's a daily deadline, even if you get to be an investigative reporter, there's always, at the end of the month, it's always a time you have to sit down and start writing. For me, whenever I started writing, there were always questions I still wanted to ask, still hadn't gotten answered, and I hated that. I hated having to write without getting all the questions answered. With books, you can take all, and as you know, I do take all the time to get these books, so I love doing that. There's something terrific about it. Well, I was a reporter for a newspaper. I covered politics. All my work was sort of, had the underlying assumption, which we all learned in college, that power in a democracy comes from the ballot box, from being elected. But Robert Moses, who's the man who built all the bridges, all the modern bridges, all the parks, all the highways in New York, and held power for 44 years, was never elected to anything. So I realized that I really wasn't doing my job right. If I wanted to explain political power, I had to find out what other sources of power there were. The planning is always, you never realize when you start something what's going to turn out to be important. Like my last book was called Master of the Senate. So that was how the Senate works. It was really just going to be a brief chapter at the beginning. But when you got down into the world of the Senate, you realize here's this whole world, and nobody really understands how it works, including me. And it's really fascinating to find it out. For the first volume, my wife and I moved from New York to the Texas Hill Country because that's where Lyndon Johnson grew up, and I realized I wasn't understanding him. I told Dinah, I said, I'm not understanding him because I'm not really understanding the people down here and the landscape, and this isolated, empty, impoverished area. We're going to have to move here. So we moved, and for 3 years we lived up actually near Johnson City. That was it's a great thing to be whatever I was then, 40, and say, I have to learn a whole new world. That's a terrific discovery. What is government? It's work, it's ends, it's ideas. If you have ideals, that's, in my opinion, the way to work for them, is through the political process. If I had to do it over again, I think I'd be more active in politics when I was in college.